My name is Elena Suleimani. I work at the Alaska Earthquake Center, which is at the University of Alaska in Fairbanks. The Alaska Earthquake Center is an organization that deals with all earthquakes in Alaska, and also we have a tsunami group, which is a part of the National Tsunami Hazard Mitigation Program, and we represent the Alaska partner in that program. So our task is to provide coastal communities in Alaska with tsunami inundation maps and help them to establish tsunami mitigation measures in communities. A tsunami is an ocean wave, but it's very different from all other ocean waves in a way that it's an extremely long wave, which means that if you look at two crests in the open ocean, they can be hundreds of miles away from each other, which means that in the open ocean, tsunami is pretty much invisible. But when it hits land, it totally becomes dangerous and hazardous because it transforms into something that is pretty much visible at the shoreline. And it behaves very differently from wind waves because of the, first of all, of the length of that wave, like crest to crest distance, and also the most important thing is that tsunami energy goes all the way to the bottom of the ocean, while wind waves and storm surges, they affect only the very top layer of the ocean. And because that energy is distributed throughout the ocean depth, it means that so much energy can be transported to long distances. That's why tsunamis generated in Alaska can travel for several hours and hit Hawaii and become so destructive in Hawaii. Tsunamis do not behave like other waves because of the two fundamental principles of tsunamis. First of all, it's a very long wave, which means that the ocean, with the depth of the ocean, which is about 3 miles, is much less than the distance between two crests of a tsunami that can be 100 miles. Tsunamis go all the way to the bottom, and because of that property of tsunami waves, we can actually detect them in the middle of the ocean, because the bottom pressure sensors can detect them. Imagine that you are on a big boat in the middle of the Pacific and there is a tsunami underneath. You don't feel it on a boat, but the bottom pressure sensor will detect it. And this is how we know when and how big the tsunami will be at different locations along the coastline in the Pacific. So we can predict exactly how big it's going to be in Ketchikan and when it comes to Ketchikan from all around the Pacific. Tsunami risk in Alaska is very substantial because Alaska has a unique combination of seismically active subduction zone, which is Alaska Aleutian Subduction Zone, plus we have that environment of glacial fjords that are sitting pretty much on top of that subduction zone. And imagine when we have a strong earthquake that can shake those unstable sediments in glacial fjords and bays. And those sediments, they become loose during strong ground shaking and they can generate all kinds of landslides, the underwater landslides, subaerial rock falls. All of these phenomena can make a tsunami. Plus, we have the subduction zone earthquakes. And the past century, in 20th century, we had several major subduction zone earthquakes in Alaska. Each of them generated a trans-Pacific tsunami. We are talking about 1946, 1957, 1964, 1965, and so on. So several of them made trans-Pacific tsunamis. And of course, the 1964 Great Alaska Earthquake is still the second largest event ever recorded, and it made the devastating tsunami that killed 120 people everywhere, including Alaska, Oregon, California, and Washington. Tsunami risk in Ketchikan from distant tsunamis, let's say tsunamis generated in the Gulf of Alaska, Aleutian Islands, is not very high, because first of all, you have enough time to evacuate. For tsunamis coming from Gulf of Alaska, Aleutian Islands, Japan, and so on, you have hours. You will be notified that there will be a tsunami, and you have so many hours to take measures. And you will be advised not to go to the harbor because there will be strong and dangerous currents in the harbor. It's very important to know your plan in case of a tsunami warning, the family plan, the organization plan, and that's why I think the practices, the tsunami evacuation practices are so important. And imagine that you have a tsunami warning in the middle of the night. It's not the time to start thinking about where your important documents are at 4 a.m., right? They need to be already sitting somewhere prepared for you to evacuate. And at the same time, you need to think where that evacuation route is. So it means it needs to be practiced in advance. You don't start thinking at 4 a.m., okay, where do I go from here? Because it's dark, it's cold, it's raining like crazy, like today, for example. And yeah, it needs to be practiced in advance. It needs to be thought through in advance. And for that, I mean, I came to Ketchikan this time to work with emergency officials, the fire chief, the city office, to make an evacuation line for Ketchikan, to see which areas will be evacuated in case of a tsunami warning. This will be summarized in a brochure that we are making for Ketchikan. It will be called Know Your Tsunami Hazard in Ketchikan, and this can be distributed, pretty much to every household.